Hello and welcome to the Intentional Brief, your weekly video update on the one big thing in cybersecurity for middle market companies, their investors, and executive teams. I'm your host, Shay Colson, managing partner at Intentional Cybersecurity, and you can find us online at intentionalcyber.com. Today is Monday, August 4th, 2025, and I think we can all agree that August has snuck up on us and that the year is suddenly moving very, very quickly. On the cyber side, there's another thing that can move very quickly, and that is attackers who gain access to your environment by exploiting your help desk. We're going to dive in on that today now that we have some new information from a recently filed lawsuit that should help make this risk a bit more concrete for those of you who are still on the fence. As you may recall from our coverage on this very show, American company Clorox suffered quite an outage in 2023 due to a ransomware attack, and in fact they're now suing their outsourced help desk provider for $380 million US, the amount of impact they claim from the attack. The details of the suit, however, are the things that I think we should focus on for this call. Clorox is asserting that the help desk agent did not follow their procedure to validate an employee before providing credentials. The suit alleges that, quote, at no point during any of the calls did the agent verify that the caller was in fact employee one. At no point did the agent follow Clorox's credential support procedures, either the pre-2023 procedure or the January 2023 update, before changing the password for the cyber criminal. The agent further reset employee one's MFA credentials multiple times without any identity verification at all. And at no point did the agent send the required emails to the employee or the employee's manager to alert them of the password reset. Unquote. Media coverage of this suit also notes that to make matters worse, quote, Clorox alleges that the threat actors used the same playbook to reset the password and MFA for another employee who worked in IT security, which was done without verification once again. This reportedly gave the attackers privileged access to the network, which they used to spread to further devices, unquote. Now, this is all allegations. Yes, it's in a lawsuit. We're going to go to court. We're going to talk about it, but they have provided in this suit the transcripts, which I've linked to in the article above. I won't attempt a dramatic recreation or reading here, but the attacker does not have to work very hard to get the help desk employee to reset their account and provide access. In fact, in some instances, the employee on the help desk side seems to do it proactively. So maybe more on the help part of that title than anything else. Finally, I think it's worth noting that this article includes a small addendum with an update from the Cognizant spokesperson that reads as follows, quote, it is shocking that a corporation the size of Clorox had such an inept internal cybersecurity system to mitigate this attack. Clorox has tried to blame us for these failures, but the reality is that Clorox hired Cognizant for a narrow scope of help desk services, which Cognizant reasonably performed. Cognizant did not manage cybersecurity for Clorox, end quote. So, you know, a little snippy and hard to read the transcript that was provided and see the help desk agent's actions as reasonable, given the fact that there was an SOP for validation in place. But that said, this comment from Cognizant does ring back to what we've covered last week in the idea that clicking a single link shouldn't take down your organization entirely, but rather this cascade of failures is really where the risk lies. I think the problem for both Clorox and Cognizant here is that they each have a point. Clorox's assertion that the Cognizant help desk person should have followed the procedure is probably right. Cognizant's assertion that one rotated credential probably shouldn't have run through your entire organization is also probably right. So for us, I think there are two core lessons to take from this, aside from what we talked about last week. First, instantiate a process for validating identity before providing password reset or rotation services via the help desk, especially for those with elevated account privileges like the IT security person in this suit. Include these processes as part of your social engineering or penetration testing every year or more frequently to ensure that they are actually in place, actually being followed, and doing the sort of protective things that you think they are once you put them into place in a policy, which I think it would seem is kind of the fatal flaw here for Clorox. The policy was there, it just wasn't being followed by the folks on the front lines, which frankly is not uncommon. So interesting lessons learned there. Hopefully you can learn them for less than $382 million like Clorox had to do. On a related note, there was some good new research coming out of Palo Alto's Unit 42 this week about the social engineering techniques being used right now to compromise Salesforce instances and steal large volumes of customer data. Shiny Hunters is the name of the threat actor group behind these attacks, which are being attributed to the recently announced breaches at Qantas, Allianz Life, Louis Vuitton, Adidas, and others. And I would note that at least one victim, Allianz in this case, is actively playing this card of, you know, this breach wasn't our breach, as it wasn't our system, it was a third-party cloud provider, which they don't say, but it was Salesforce, right? And I think that's small comfort probably to the 1.4 million customers whose data was exposed. From a fundraising perspective, more on the volume of announcements rather than the total amount raised last week, with $6.4 billion in newly committed capital coming from about a dozen fund announcements. There are, however, some positive indicators on the IPO market, with Figma making a strong debut after their Adobe deal fell apart. One to keep a close eye on, though, however, when I checked this morning, Figma appeared to be down about 20% today alone. Perhaps some profit taking by those who were in early on the IPO wave, but it's hard to say. Anyway, watch this space. As a reminder, you can find links to all the articles we covered below in the comment section. You can find back issues and written transcripts of these videos at intentionalcyber.com, and we will see you next week for another edition of the Intentional Brief.